I see you grow. I go, I go. I see you flow. I go, I go. I see you grow. I go, I go. I see you flow.
Okay, I am so fucking excited. This is our first community call from Mexico, baby. Oh my goodness. I'm just gonna enjoy this little grapefruit because I didn't go get water this morning and I need water and I need hydration. So we have grapefruit. Oh my goodness. We're just gonna wait a few more seconds to see if anybody hops on live with us. You're watching the replay. Hello, I love you. How are you? Tell me in the comments. What has so grapefruity. What has shifted for you since our last call? I feel like I have literally moved mountains since our last call. I did not almost just fall over. You did not see that. Let me know how you're doing, though. Let me know what has shifted for you, what has changed for you, if anything. How is life treating you? How are you doing? What emotions are coming up for you? Oh, this call today is going to be so good. I'm so excited. So we're going to do a little bit of a introduction into how to utilize your emotions in a way that serves you despite what kind of emotions are coming up for you. And then we're going to do a little bit of a somatic practice in actually channeling these emotions that are present for you into something new, into new energy. We're going to be working with our intuition. We're going to be working with our bodies. It's going to be so freaking good. My cells are like tingling just at the thought of it. And I have a special little invitation for you at the end. So without further ado, we're going to get started. I'm going to let the rest of this song play and then we're going to get started, okay?
I see you grow. I see you flow.
Take a moment to fully arrive here in this. Maybe that looks like moving your body. Maybe that looks like just settling into where you are, taking a deep breath, closing the eyes, fully arriving in the here and now. Maybe that looks like opening your chest. All right. Hello. Oh my goodness. So I want to start how we normally start our calls and give you the space to put something here on the altar. I have my little crystal that I'm going to put on the altar. So it can be something physical or it can be something energetic, it can be an emotion, it can be something you're working through, it can be literally, quite literally whatever, but try and sum it up in either a physical object, like this can have intention, right? Or sum it up in one word, and you can drop it in the comments, in the chat, so we can see it together. And so we can honor your intention and what you're placing on the altar and create this vortex of safety for you to hold that intention or whatever it might be. And once you have your word or your object that you are placing on the altar, you can drop it in the comments and then just soften into focusing on that intention, on that object, holding it. If it's a word, you can hold it in your mind, you can hold it in your body, you can hold it in your hands, just the same way that you would hold a physical object. Just taking a moment to breathe some life into that. Again, fully arriving to this room, to this space, to this sacred container. All right. So we're going to start this off with a little educational piece, and then we're going to go into a somatic practice. And what I wanted to share with you today has to do with your ability to hold your emotions and your ability to let go of your emotions and not make them mean anything about you. So I'm going to give you a little story in a second, but I want to just give you like this educational piece so you really understand where I'm coming from. And you may already know this, you may know this in different words, but just listen because it really wants to come through. So we're all antennas of the earth, right? And so this energy pulsates through us, either through the ground or through the cosmos coming down. And it creates this vortex, and we become this charged piece of the earth that gets to move around and walk around. But we are not meant to hold and carry all of the energy by ourselves. We're meant to share it with community. We're meant to share it with the earth. We're meant to share it with the plants, with the animals, with all the things. And so when we try and take it all on ourselves, when we try and be the person who does all the things, who knows all the things, who carries all the emotions, like if you're the black sheep of the family, that's probably you, right? If you try and do it all yourself, you will literally explode because your body, your physical vessel is meant to channel emotions, channel energies. It's not meant to hold them. And this is a big thing, I think, especially in the manifestation community, is like, oh, we have to hold our desires and visualize them. And yes, But it's also about trusting in something that's bigger than you. It's about allowing yourself to let these emotions go. It's about allowing yourself to let these desires go and float into the ethers and trusting that what is meant for you will come back to you. And there's that quote, if you love something, set it free. And if it's meant for you, it will always return. And it's very similar with energy. Everything is love. So I see it through this like lens of love. And when you actually open yourself up to letting go instead of holding on all the time, you change the game for your body, because what's meant for you will quite literally be there for you always. But when you're trying to grasp and when you're trying to hold and when you're trying to create this perfect container, this perfect space, that's when you're shown that nothing is perfect. When you allow, when you're in this state of allowance and you're allowing this energy to pour through you, when you're allowing the emotions to pour through you, when you're allowing the ideas to pour through you, and you're not making it mean anything about you, about who you are, about your character, about how smart you are, or whatever, and you're just allowing the energy to pour through you, you become a vessel for creation. And you can then create utilizing that same energy, because you're not making it mean anything about you. When you make it mean something about you, that's when you attach your identity to it, your ego to it. And that's when it becomes this persona, this role that you have to fill. And then it becomes this grippy, graspy energy, which just isn't a fun state to live in, to be honest. It's more fun when you're open and you're flowy and you're just like in your pleasure body and just like, letting it flow and letting it go and letting it do all the things. When you surrender in that way and you allow all to be as it is, you most times get the outcomes that you want or better. Not because your vibration is perfect, not because you did all the mindset work, not because you're holding the vision in your body, not because you have this crazy support system, but because you're allowing life to be lived through you. You are becoming one with life itself, one with creation itself. And when you live in this way, it's like living in a state of energy. It's living in your energy body. And so we can have these preferences and things like that. That's more in like the physical body, more in the materialistic realm, which is great. Like, yes, have preferences. But if your preferences are dictating your mood, so say, for example, I always want to be happy, right? This is just a general example. I actually like being sad sometimes. But say my thing is, I just always want to be happy. And then when I'm not happy, I get really upset. That is allowing a circumstance or an emotion to dictate the way that you're showing up in your life. And so when you allow yourself to live from a state of energy and you allow it to pour through you, rather than trying to control and say, oh, I want it to be like this, you get to become the master of the energy around you without having to control it. Hello, how are you? If you want, we are just getting started. I'm doing like a little educational piece, and then we're going to go into a somatic practice. But in the beginning, I just offered, if you want to put anything on the altar, you're welcome to do that. There's like a little chat you can do that in, and we will hold it with you. I have my little crystal that means something to me that I'm putting on the altar. So if you have something you want to put on the altar, something you're bringing to the space, drop it in the chat. Let us know so we can hold it with you. Because, like I am saying, it is not about holding it all yourself. It's about allowing this ecosystem of love and, sorry, one moment. It's about allowing this ecosystem of everything to support you in what you're doing and having those preferences, but not making. So, for example, if your preferences aren't met, it's not about making yourself wrong because your preferences aren't met. You get to feel the joy of the contrast too. And this is a really big component of allowing the energy to flow through you, which is what I see somatics as. So I want to give you a little rundown of how I see somatics and how somatics has really allowed me to move through so many emotions. And I'm going to go into a little personal story time. So about 2.5, I guess 3 years now, I moved down to Florida, and I had a lot of things that were coming up for me in my field that I just wasn't ready to face. And a lot of it was energetically imprinted in my body. A lot of it was things that I was avoiding for a really long time, these patterns that kept repeating themselves. And I was trying to do all this mindset work. I was like, oh, if I just align with the highest good of all, if I just do all this spiritual work, if I prove myself, then it'll all work out. Then it'll just be amazing. It'll be perfect. And I'll get everything that I want. And what I realized was that was kind of very flawed thinking. But more than that, what I realized was it wasn't my mind that was holding on to things. It was my body. My body was living in the patterns of the past, and I wasn't actually allowing the energies to flow through me because I was attaching to these stories and to these narratives and to my identity to certain situations that happened in my life, and I was making that mean something about me. Now, when life is good and great and amazing, this can be a real ego booster. But when you're constantly faced with adversity over and over and over again, and you start to make the outside world mean something about you, it becomes this bat that you end up beating yourself with. And so to step out of that realm entirely is to detach from the good and the bad, meaning anything about you, because it truly does not mean anything about you. Everything is just energy. And when we see ourselves as these conduits of the earth, as these conduits for energy, energy just moves through us. There's no really rhyme or reason. I mean, like attracts like and all these things, and we could go into that energetically, but it's like, at the basis of it, it really means nothing until you give it meaning. And so I was noticing the way I was making meaning out of these patterns and these things that were coming up for me in my life. And I was like demeaning myself and making myself feel like a bad person because of these experiences that kept repeating in my reality, instead of actually facing the pattern and becoming aware of the energetic foundations that were at the forefront that were asking to be looked at. And the only way that I was able to do this was by working with my body. It wasn't something I could do in the mind. I did a lot of neurological rewiring, and that played a large role. But the real work started happening when I began to tap into my body, when I began to see how I was really feeling, when I began to see the pains that were on my heart, the holes, the wounds that weren't being tended to because I was so avoidant and I didn't even want to look at them because I was making everything mean something about me. And so if I were to look at those wounds, that would mean I'm unfit to be in this body. I'm unfit to take care of myself. I'm not responsible. I'm lazy. I'm this, I'm that. I'm blah, 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 blah. And so when I actually started looking at the wounds that were in my energetic body, I realized that, so what if I'm irresponsible sometimes? So what if I look silly sometimes? So what if I'm a goofball? So what if I have these negative tendencies? So what? So what? Everyone has their things, right? Why am I making it such a big deal? And I realized that it was like this like victim martyr energy that was passed on from my parents. And so it started this entire new level of awakening on a body level. And I wouldn't have been able to do this just in the mind, but the mind doing the mindset work and having that foundation helped my body to step out of those patterns, because whenever my body would want to like go back into those patterns of like self-deprecation, overeating or anything like that, I would have my mind there to be like, okay, but this isn't actually what you want. This is a habit. This is a pattern. This is something that feels normal, that feels safe, but is it actually what you want? And so I'd have that reference point to kind of check me. So I'm telling you all of this to say that as much as the mindset work is important, the body work is also important. As much as the body work is important, as much as the spiritual work is important, the mindset work, it's all important. It's all these little components that come together to help you to create this new energetic frequency that you get to step into and live in, that isn't this like controlling, trying to make everything perfect. It's like this allowance of a fluid ego. And I love this because we really are changing moment to moment, and every single moment we are changing. Every single time you meet someone, you're meeting a new person. Our cells are changing all the time. And so when we look at it from this perspective of like, I am, but I am not, and I am all that I am, and I am nothing, and I am everything, and I am. When we look at it like this, it forces us to be in the present moment. Whereas when we're living through the patterns or stories of the past, we're in the future, the past, and the present. And it creates this like split in our energy. When we are what we are in that moment, and we allow the feelings coming through us in that moment to be what they are without making any meaning about them, this is when we've reached a new level of allowance of the energetic world to come alive in our perception. And so why is this important? Why am I so passionate about this? Because when you live from this place, more synchronicities happen. You're in the right place at the right time. Things work out for you. Things are always happening for you. Random miracles and magic just like floods your life, and you're excited for no reason because you're not attached to your happiness needing to be because of a certain circumstance or a certain outcome. It just is because you just are. Now, these are a lot of words to explain something that you can only really feel in the body. So that's why I wanted to take us through a somatic practice as well. And I think it's really important to understand that it's not like I was saying, it's not about just doing one or the other. It's about creating this whole system, this whole support structure for you to lay in that allows you to flow into this state of being a fluid individual. And when we live in a way that is fluid, when we live in a way that allows our energy to be fluid, we can actually hold more. And when we can hold more, our capacity increases. So our relationships get better, our financial state gets better, our quality of life increases, because our capacity to hold and to see and not make it mean anything about us is our capacity to make it mean something about us and to make that story go in our favor. So this duality of remaining detached and yet also having these preferences is really the sweet spot. But it's not about living a life where it's like, I see a lot of like self-concept coaches and manifestation coaches, and they're talking about like, oh, you can get everything that you want. And yes, you can, but there are certain things that you want that you don't know the reason why you want them. And so when you get to know yourself on an energetic level, when you get to know what your body is actually asking for, it changes the game entirely. So with all of that being said, I'm going to take us through a little bit of a somatic practice, and we can start with the word or the object or the intention that you have placed on the altar today. And if you didn't take a moment to do that, go ahead, and you don't have to necessarily like pick one, but just feel into your space and just feel what's coming up for you. So I've been having a big theme about relationships recently, and just like cultivating more dynamic friendships and having a bigger group of people to support me, allowing myself to be supported by the energy around me and not having to carry it all myself, like we were talking about in the beginning, because I am a channel, right? And I thrive when I'm around other individuals who can receive. And when I'm not being received, I shut myself down. And so having relationships that allow me to open up and share and be expressive are really important for me right now. And this crystal was given to me by my friend who I'm watching her house right now. And she told me the story of how she got it. And so we're cleansing that energy off of like manipulative relationships, giving to get, and opening ourselves up to this dynamic of expressive trust and flow with the universe, allowing the people in who are attracted to us because of the divine, and letting go of people who are, or just that dynamic of relationship of giving to get and stepping into more abundance. So that is my intention. If you want to share yours, I'd be happy to hear. Um, and if it's not related to like a crystal or anything, that's cool too. Thanks for joining us live. So we're going to take a moment to just drop into the body now. And as you're dropping into the body, I want you to feel into the layers outside of your body. So you'll imagine like a sphere covering you, almost like the Avatar when he was getting out of the ice. A sphere just like covering you, and noticing what energy is there as well. Noticing any energies of like push and pull, noticing any energies of anger, resentment, noticing any energies of sadness, betrayal, any energies of happiness, of joy, of gratitude, of appreciation. Just noticing what's in your sphere and not trying to change it, just allowing yourself to see it. And this can be an opportunity for you to tap really deeply into your heart space. A lot of the time, what happens is our heart is a memory recorder, and it runs on water, and water holds memory. And so when we have experiences that we're either resistant to or that we really love so much, but we don't feel like they could happen again and again, we create this blockage in our heart, and it creates a sort of lock that only that thing can open. And so we'll end up creating these situations and scenarios that are less than ideal because we have this pattern on our heart. So just inviting you to take a moment to tap into the heart space and just really feel any patterns that may be present there. For me, I'm seeing some things about relationships. So it could be in relation to your intention, or it could be something entirely different. You will know, you will feel, you will see. We're just going to take 3 deep breaths here. I invite you to bring the breath into your solar plexus. This is your area of confidence, and this is the area that will expel energy from the heart. So just taking 3 deep breaths with an audible exhale. And on that last exhale, I want you to imagine, rather than releasing all of the things that are on your heart, I want you to imagine that exhale allows that energy to be unlocked. It allows the patterns to rise to the surface and to echo out in your energetic field so that you can see them and consciously choose differently. And now we're going to bring in the power of your intuition. So, with whatever is on your heart, whatever is in your energetic space, I want you to ask your intuition. You can ask a few different ways. So, I'm going to pose it a few different ways. I want you to ask your intuition, how can I use this energy to make me more wealthy? Wealthy isn't just about money. It's about quality of life. So how can I utilize this existing energy to bring more wealth into my life? You can also ask, how can I utilize this existing energy to bring more foundational relationships into my life? And then the last one would be, how can I allow myself to work fluidly with this energy? And maybe you get a ping right away. Maybe an image crosses your mind. Maybe you have an impulse to go do something or be somewhere or call someone. But even if you don't, allow the silence to be a birthing place for the answer to come to you. And be open and receptive to the answer. And so in order for us to be more open and receptive, what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little bit of an energy clearing, something very simple. And you can perform this on yourself or just witness. Either way, it will be effective. What we're going to do is we're going to pull the energy up from our root. This is our survival center. We're going to pull it up into the solar plexus, into the heart, into the throat, into the third eye, to the crown. And we're going to bring it above the crown and just dangle it there for a moment. We're going to make peace with this energy. Thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for all the lessons I have learned. Thank you for the comfortability that comes with this pattern, that comes with this story, that comes with this energy. Thank you for allowing me to be a vessel to channel and carry this energy. And thank you for our time spent together. I now allow you to be given back to the earth, to float into the ethers, and to be free in your own divinity. And we're going to take the hands at the top and pull them apart and come down around the sides, opening ourselves up, opening our aura up. Palms facing upward, spine standing erect. We're going to imagine this energy in front of us. Like we're having a conversation with us. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's sadness, maybe it's a memory, maybe it's a person coming up for you, maybe it's a relationship dynamic, whatever it is for you, whatever your intention, whatever relates to your intention. We're just going to have a conversation with this energy. We're going to ask it what it needs. You can imagine that you're sitting at dinner having a conversation with it, or maybe you're in a field or a specific location. Just asking, what do you need? How can I support you in your freedom, in our freedom? And again, maybe you'll get an answer right away and maybe you won't. Maybe this connection, this conversation, this eye contact with this energy is exactly what it needs. And before we let go of this conversation, I want you to ask yourself, what part of me thrives in this dynamic with this energy? So maybe it's scarcity, maybe it's fear, maybe it's manipulation, maybe it's gratitude, maybe it's appreciation. What are you attached to in this dynamic? In what way does this serve your ego? In what way, what meaning does this give to your sense of self? So I'm going to give an example. This isn't what's coming up for me, but just so you have a rule of thumb for reference. Maybe you're used to relationships where there's a power dynamic, and your ability to withstand the power dynamic gives your sense of self a sense of strength. And so the next part of this is asking yourself, how can I receive this same sensation in a new way? How can I let myself feel strong in a new way? Maybe the answer is by learning to say no to relationships where there's a power dynamic. And this is how we alchemize energies in our field, utilizing the body and utilizing our intuition so that we can. So it's not about releasing or getting rid of any kind of energy. It's about inviting the energy in to sit with you at the table, having a conversation, trusting your intuition, and then rewriting that relationship with that same energy, with that same outcome, so that you get to live life in a new way. And why is this so valuable and so important? Because the things that you're experiencing in your life, the emotions, the patterns that are on repeat that you're experiencing in your life are happening because part of you actually enjoys it. And let me say that another way. Part of you actually thrives in that role. Part of your identity is attached to that energetic dynamic. And so when you can take your power back, sit with that dynamic, and then consciously decide, consciously choose to employ that same energy in a new way, you become the filter. You become the alchemist. You become a new version of yourself who is fluid, who allows themselves, you're not making yourself wrong for playing with that energy in a certain way. You're shifting your dynamic to have an entirely new experience because you can. Creating healthy energetic boundaries within relationships. I love that. Yes. Yes. It's a big theme for me as well right now. It's being able to say no, being able to create the space and then also have my own space within that space and take up space without taking up space just to take up space. So this is one of the practices that I do like pretty regularly because, oh my gosh, it's life-changing when you can become conscious of a pattern and then decide that you're going to employ that same energy differently. It's like you don't have to lose anything. There's no death involved. There's no releasing. Releasing means to re-sign. Like, doesn't make any sense. You're not letting go of anything. You're literally changing the way it shows up in your field. And this is one of, I will say, like, this is one of the secrets of really, really wealthy people is they know how to do this. They know how to shift the dynamic. And people who have wealth are not people who just have money. People who have wealth have really good quality of life. So these people who have a lot of wealth, who have a lot of abundance, who have this way of looking at the world, they're not making meaning about if someone buys from that person or if someone wants to be friends with that person in this capacity but doesn't want the same with you. They're not making any meaning. They're just looking at the energetics of it and deciding like, oh, this would be my preference. Oh, this would be my preference. Oh, this would be my preference. But they're not attaching any meaning and they're not making what they're seeing a definite end all be all. And this is the power of owning your energetic body, because when you can do that, you can make your preferences come to life so easily. But it's not because you're making your preferences come to life. You feel me? It's because you're allowing yourself to actually experience what you're experiencing and choosing what your preference is. And this is how you become the conscious creator of your reality. This is how you become the conscious creator of your life, of your relationships. This is how you decide. So, for the example of creating healthy, energetic boundaries within relationships, it's like, you notice something is happening in a relationship and then you have a feeling about it. You sit with the feeling, you say, what is this feeling asking for? And it's a boundary, right? So you notice something happening in the relationship that doesn't feel good. And then you feel the feeling. The feeling is asking you to set a boundary. A lot of the time, anger, frustration, and resentment are all in relation to setting boundaries. And that energy can be the fuel to actually set the boundary. And sometimes it's not as pretty as we did it here today. Sometimes it's like you really want to scream and you really want to like be moved by this emotion, but it doesn't always have to be like that. When you notice the anger before it becomes this like roar of a lion, the anger doesn't get to become a roar of a lion because you set the boundary right away and then the anger subsides. The anger is an indicator, right? So in the case of setting healthy energetic boundaries in relationships, you see the thing, you have the emotion, you feel, you let it channel through you, you let it move through you, you let it be in your auric field. It's not like, oh, get away from me. It's like, okay, hello, how are you? You're showing me something. What are you showing me? How can I support you? What do you need? What part of me is actually attached to this kind of a dynamic? And then from there, you can choose differently. So in this case, choosing differently would be speaking up and saying what's on your heart, saying what's on your mind, setting a boundary, maybe taking more time for yourself. It's through the action. We do this energetic work, and then it's through the action that things actually shift. So my homework for you today is to take what we have done here, and maybe you do the practice again. You can catch the replay if you desire to have like a really like guided practice. And so take this work that we've done, take your newfound relationship with this emotion, with this sensation, with this story, and begin to dance with it. Dance with it a little bit. See how it's showing up in your reality. And then when you notice the ways it's showing up in your reality, begin to take the action to align yourself with the world where you are operating out of choice. So that could look like allowing yourself to sleep in longer and not make it mean anything about you. That could be taking some time off. That could be taking action towards what you said you were going to do. It's all subjective to you, really. But this is the general framework of being able to alchemize your emotions, being able to take really volatile emotions and channel them and have conversations with them and sit with them and move them without forcing them. And this is something that completely changed my life. This is what has allowed me to come to Mexico, because for a long time I was like forcing myself. I was like, oh, I got to get out of my mom's house. I got to stop doing this. I got to stop doing this. I got to stop. Pushing me away. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. But once I learned to sit with the emotions that were coming up, which was like a lot of grief, a lot of like anger, resentment, frustration. I never let myself go there before because I thought those emotions were so bad, and I'm a spiritual person, so can't do all that. But once I learned, like, okay, if I don't sit with them, they're going to blow up in my face. I learned to sit with them, and then they got quieter because I was having a conversation with them. And I learned that part of me was actually in love with that dynamic of needing to be saved, because it made me feel like I had value. I was associating my value with needing to be saved, with needing to be coddled, with that was how I got love when I was a child. And so it was this pattern that was repeating itself because of these beliefs that were housed in my body that showed themselves through these patterns, and the emotions were indicators that I was living unauthentically to who I have become. I was living in a past because I wasn't dealing with the emotions that were in my energetic space, because I thought they were bad, because I was creating stories, I was creating meaning about them. And so this is why I took you on this whole journey of creating meaning and being able to sit and noticing how you're attached to it, because these are all the components that allows you to actually break free from it. When you create a relationship with every single emotion, when you create a relationship with every single energy that channels through you, and you don't make it mean anything about you, it's like you don't make your relationship with some acquaintance mean anything about you, right? But if it's your best friend, if they're really close to you, then maybe, yeah. So it's like learning to not make any of it mean anything about you. And when you live in this state, it's like allowing yourself to become the void. And when you are the void, things pop up for you. Your wildest dreams start manifesting like this, because you're no longer trying to control everything. You're simply allowing it to be, and you're moving with the current energy that is there and making it move in a different way. And this is exactly what has gotten me to Mexico, because I was trying to force myself out of my mom's house, and then it was like, okay, I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to stop, because part of me actually really likes this. Part of me actually really loves this. Part of me is actually thriving being in this role where I don't have to pay rent, where I don't have to do this, where I don't have to do that, XYZ. And once I stopped fighting it, it was no longer something that I actually was like linked to. It was like, oh, this doesn't make sense for me anymore. Like, this energy is going to play out in a new way now. And I could have chose the new way that it played out, but I chose to just kind of like trust fall. And now I'm here, and the energy is playing out in a different way. Like, I was with my friend for like 2 weeks, and she was basically giving me the love that I was giving my mom. And so being like living with her, like cooking for her, all the things. So it's like, once you stop making the energy, like stop demonizing the energy, stop making the energy good or bad, and you just let it be what it is, and you sit with it and you build a relationship with it, it can show up in the most miraculous ways in your life. It can blow your socks off. It can all be pleasure. Really, it really can. But you have to detach from making it mean anything, and you have to also identify the way that that story is playing out and how it's serving you, so that you can actually detach and move on to a new story, because we're always going to have stories, but it's like a new story that comes about. And in that process, you actually step into the void of the unknown. And that's exactly how I got here. So I just wanted to share all of that with you. Thank you for everyone that hopped on. Thank you for everyone who was present. If you have any questions or if you want to share anything, please drop it in the comments. I'd love to see what you're going through, what you're moving through. If you have any questions about this process, let me know. And I wanted to leave off with a little special bonus for you. So the next 2 people that do a one-on-one session with me, this can be plant medicine session, this can be energetic business session, this can be like an alchemy session, it can be a general session. There's a link I'll send you. Any of the sessions that are on the page that I send you, the next 2 people that sign up are going to get the chakra activation guide included for free. And because you're a part of this amazing community, I also wanted to offer you an additional call. So the one-on-one sessions are usually 1 call, 90 minutes, and then we have 2 weeks in Telegram. But when the next 2 people that sign up, you're actually going to get 2 calls and 2 weeks in Telegram and the chakra activation guide. So this is an amazing opportunity to get one-on-one energy work. We can literally dive into anything you want in these sessions. We can do business, we can do past life regression, we can do a mix of things, we could do cord cutting, we can do all of these things. So yeah, it's an amazing opportunity to start doing the work and having someone else hold the space with you, which is transformational in itself, and being witnessed is transformational in itself. So I'm so excited to offer this to you. And if you have any questions about it, let me know. I'll drop the link in the comments here. And I think that's all. I will see you next month for our next monthly call. Mahalo.